Hello, everyone. Well, we had a big storm overnight, and now we have lovely snow. I'm all bundled up because it is freezing out here. So I think I'm just gonna do like a half an hour session, keep it simple. And I am drawn to the mountainside across the valley. The main reason I'm drawn to these distant trees is because they're green, but it's so subtle. And I think that is just going to be an interesting challenge to see how I can paint them. They're almost monochrome. If the longer I stare at it, the more subtle color I see. So that's interesting. But yeah, anyway, we're just going to do a little short session today, I think. One of the tricky things about gouache is the drying shift. The drying shift happens when the water evaporates and the pigment is left looking darker or lighter, usually darker in this case of gouache. So when I'm painting extremely subtle color shifts like this, it's really important to take a couple seconds or minutes to wait for some layers to dry before moving on. Otherwise, you think you've painted something a certain color and it turns out not to be the case. I will say that this drying shift becomes somewhat second nature the longer you use certain colors and do certain mixes. You kind of know what to expect, I guess. And I'm getting there with this palette. The main reason I don't really focus on that as a subject on its own is because the only way to get used to it is to use the colors frequently. To me, the most important thing about choosing gouache is the consistency and the opacity. So once you find a brand you love or certain colors across different brands that you love, I'd say just get those, stick with them for long periods of time, and all of the little quirks about them, like the drying shift, will eventually become more intuitive. One little tip I have is that if you're struggling to see values or color, I often will like literally squint, like look through the filter of my eyelashes. It simplifies the color, it kind of groups things together. The other thing you can do if you're a glasses wearer is to take your glasses off. And for me, that immediately softens everything. It does give me a bit of a headache to go from having these on and off constantly, so I just do it very shortly. But if I combine taking them off with squinting, everything is super simplified. And now I just see big shapes and big color. Sometimes it's good to just do a small kind of blocky study, simplifying the shapes. Don't worry about detail, just think about color and value. I decided that because it was so dreary outside, I needed a big pop of color in my life. And I had bought this pink paper to paint on top of, but I thought, how interesting would it be to put this behind my subject? Would it really change how I see the greens? And after a long staring session, I realized it definitely makes the greens feel way more saturated than they do on their own. This Christmas cactus is kind of like an olivey grayish green most of the time. It has a bit of red in it. It has a lot of variation in it, obviously, but it was very cool to see how much that pink paper made a difference in how I saw the color. I definitely saw more deep greens than I do usually. Hello everyone. What a change. As you can see, I'm outside and it is a beautiful day. I'm sitting out by my little greenhouse, which is in desperate need of attention, but that's a summer project. And I'm staring out at our beautiful little woodland. There's a stream in there. There's all sorts of trees and plant life, and I'm just enjoying the sounds of nature and being outside in the sun. It's actually almost too warm for a jacket. I think it's gonna get up to like 12 degrees today, which is insane because it just snowed, but loving it. Anyway, we're gonna paint. I was thinking about how usually when I go to a forest, I paint like a singular tree or something a little more focused, or maybe a pathway meandering through the forest. But I very rarely paint when it's all kind of overgrown and everything's leaning on each other and it's just kind of a mess, a natural, beautiful mess. I really rarely focus on that as a subject, and it is just endless layers of green. So like, why not use that as my subject? And also an interesting challenge to make sense of it, I guess, in a painting. It was probably going to be the first of many paintings from this little corner of the garden. And as the season changes and things grow and it shifts, I can always come down and paint more. We'll see. I'm just going to splash some paint around. I have to admit, I kind of let my study of greens go out the window during this painting because I was just enjoying the weather. And of course, I'm obviously like subconsciously studying whatever I'm looking at, no matter what. But I just wanted to put big, fun shapes, really expressive brush strokes down, play with color a little bit, and kind of just see what happens. I actually really enjoyed that session. That was only about 30 minutes, but I think it's just enough. This is only my second or third proper plein air session of the year, like being out in nature painting. I had to take my jacket off because it was so hot. But I have a bunch of other work to do and I'm continuing my studio renovation, so I'm gonna call it a day and hopefully tomorrow will be just as nice. Well, this is a little awkward. I was just in my studio organizing some stuff and collapsed in excruciating pain. And when I Googled it, basically it said that I've thrown my back out. I've never had this happen to this extent before. And I wasn't even doing anything crazy. So that's very odd. But Wolfie helped me into bed. And I have to like be in this one singular awkward leaning position for it to not hurt as bad. Currently, I have a view out the window at some very brown, gray branches. That's about it. So I might just sketch what I can see like it's a way to distract me from the paint. This is not how I wanted the day to go. Huge shout out to Wolfie for putting the mirror next to the window so I could see a little bit more, including one of my favorite trees in the corner of the garden. It really helped me feel slightly less stuck or claustrophobic or whatever. And while greens weren't necessarily the focus of this session, I did incorporate some really lovely muted greens because that's kind of all I could see on the trees, and more or less focused on the structure and textures on the bark. So it was a very relaxing session. I have to admit, I'm not someone who can sit still very well. I have to be occupying my mind at all times. So I spent a leisurely 3 hours off and on sketching and painting these trees. It is really bright out, even though the sun isn't like directly hitting me. Just that kind of glare happening right now. Overcast and glary. I'm slightly better today. I'm able to walk a little bit and kind of shuffle around really. But I'm fine enough to be out here and paint for a little while, and then I'll go back to bed. This is just not the most convenient time to hurt my back. Is there ever a convenient time? No, there's not. I'm a little bit obsessed with the old red weathered paint on our garage, and since we're going to repaint it this summer, I thought I might as well capture it how it is now, that old rustic charm, before it changes. I just broke my palette. It fell on the ground, and this very important piece fell off. It's how the little cups slide on. Oh no. I mean, I have another one, but it's full of watercolor, and this is like my go-to gouache palette. I might be able to super glue that back on. I'll look into it later. I mean, I could still use it like this. Once again, it was kind of interesting to see how the reddish color of the paint on the garage made the greens next to it pop. And all of this is because red and green are complementary. So when you put them together, they make each other kind of sing a little bit more. So you don't have to make either one as saturated or vibrant as you might think you need to. You can use very subtle versions of each one, and they will make each other feel more saturated. Okay, it is day 10. My back is killing me still, but I can kind of walk. So I am going to go outside to paint because it's a beautiful day. You can maybe see a little bit. But I just got a very exciting package. The final draft of Sketching Scotland Volume 2. This is the second book in my Sketching Scotland series. The first book I've been selling through my web shop for the last 5 or 6 years. That one is kind of my entire plein air journey as an artist in Scotland since I moved here until about 2021. This book covers 2021 until now, 2026. So there's a lot packed into this. And actually, you can kind of see the difference in thickness between the two. So I'm in the final stages of editing this book. This is the final printed draft, hopefully. After this, we are going to production. And I'm self-publishing it again, so I'm going to be running a Kickstarter probably at the end of this month. at the end of April. And I will send out a newsletter. I will make posts all over the place. So if you're interested, you won't miss it, hopefully. I'm also going to reprint volume 1 at the same time. So I'll use extra funds from the Kickstarter to do that. I'm adding ISBNs to all of them so that I can hopefully sell them locally in shops as well. So this will be the second edition cover of Sketching Scotland Volume 1. I love this one because it's one of my favorite oil paintings I did when we used to live kind of like north of where we are now. So I just have to go through the final edits of this. Hopefully there's nothing wrong with it. I've already gone through it so many times. The problem is every time I edit this, I want to add more. So it keeps getting thicker and thicker and thicker. And already it is almost twice as big. So I gotta ease up on that. But I'm so excited to share this with you. There's a lot in here, a lot of which I've shared on YouTube over the years, a lot I've shared just through Instagram or my photography account. Yeah, there's so much. There's lots of imagery that is hopefully inspiring and little stories here and there. So again, it's just my journey as an artist living in Scotland. This one has a bit more of like a guide for anybody who is interested in coming to Scotland to paint or sketch or whatever. I do go into more detail about good places to go or why I like certain places, and plenty of other fun stuff like my favorite supplies. And it's a little bit of everything. It's if you love Scotland or if you love art or if you love being outside in nature, this kind of has something for everyone. But for now, it's time to go outside and paint because supposedly we are going to get rain later, so I gotta go out and take advantage of the weather while we have it. It's a little chilly today, so I've got my winter jacket on, but it's sunny. All the flowers are blooming and it's so beautiful. I'm gonna sit here by my rock wall and I'm actually gonna be painting the distance, the mountain in the distance, because I want to capture the colors before summer changes everything. I still need to try super gluing my portable painter back together, but until then I'll be enjoying some fresh gouache in my pochade box. As a reminder, this is the New Wave Yugo 6x8, which is my favorite size, perfect for little studies outside. I was happily painting along when suddenly I noticed a couple dots showing up on my paper and the pochade box. I was like, oh, that's odd. What's that? And then a few more and a few more. And then all of a sudden it started to pour. And there were no clouds directly over me or anywhere nearby. So it was really just surprising. And so after that, I had to hold my umbrella over myself so I didn't record as much as I planned to. But that's just how it goes sometimes when you're outside painting in the spring. This was a really interesting painting experience because half of the painting was gray and brown mostly. Of course, we have the blue sky and the happy clouds, and then the kind of brownish, grayish, bluish mountain in the distance. But what I was really focusing on was trying to capture depth within the pine trees that line the side of the mountain. And then there were these bright reddish, brownish, grayish, orangish trees in the foreground. So creating that sense of distance between each element. And what I found was that in order to capture the sunny look of the pine trees in the distance, I needed to add a ton of yellow and red to my mix. And then for these shadowy, darker pine trees, it was just a lot of blue and a tiny bit of red too. There's actually a lot of red in pine trees, I find. So it was a really fun little challenge. And then as I was painting towards the end, I noticed how different my colors looked in the sun versus the shade, which just reminded me like how much of a difference that makes. I find that I tend to paint really dark if my paper is in full sun. And then if I am in the shade, I paint a little bit lighter and a little bit more saturated too, maybe to make up for the fact that it's kind of dark and I can't see as well. Plus I often paint with sunglasses so that my eyes don't strain as much in the sun. Anyways, it's just something to think about while you're out there painting. I think our daffodils are in peak bloom right now, so I couldn't resist giving them a go. I find yellow to be one of the most difficult colors to mix, especially when light changes really quick and it's coming through the petals and changing the shadow colors, and it's just quite complicated. I think the petals are slightly tinted by the green that's around them, so this is definitely something I have to continue to investigate. Well, since it's Saturday, I'm going to wrap this video up here, and I will see you again next weekend for another week of painting. I hope you're all staying inspired, and if you enjoyed this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up. Maybe leave a comment and let me know what your favorite day was, or if you've been working on anything in particular you want to share, feel free to let me know. All right, I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.